Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Palma, and I'm with the HDFC Coalition, and welcome to the City Council District 7 Candidates Forum. Let me just say in Spanish, para nuestros asistentes que hablen español, nuestra reunión será interpretado por Shaun Abreu. Y para escuchar este encuentro en español, por favor, presione el botón del intérprete en el parte abajo de la pantalla de Zoom. Aparece ahí un globito. Si quiere escuchar esto en español, por favor, imprime ese botón. Tonight, we are gathered to hear from an esteemed group of candidates for our City Council District 7. In a few minutes, they will name and introduce themselves in a brief 2-minute statement. On the coalition side, I am joined by steering committee member John McBride of the 241 West 111th Street HDFC, and serving as our interpreter, Shaun Abreu of the 517 West 144th Street HDFC. And again, my name is Michael Palma, and I'm from the 601 West 136th Street HDFC. Before we start, I would like to take note to recognize the amazing and incredible life of April Tyler, who was one of the original founding members of the HDFC Coalition, one of its key leaders who unexpectedly passed last February. Always a West Harlem advocate in all aspects of neighborhood and political life, April's activism knew no bounds in her selfless quest for social justice and equitable treatment for all. Like most of us in the coalition, April advocated strongly to protect the rights of HDFC shareholders as private homeowners and worked tirelessly for just and fair legislation based on community input. New York City, West Harlem, and indeed the HDFC community feel her loss, her presence here tonight, of her leadership and her clarity of thought on all things that affected the lives of Upper Manhattan residents. And yet we know in our hearts and minds that April is here with us tonight, continuing her work and the work of many others who have long passed before her in order to bring a sense of fairness and equity to HDFCs and their shareholders. Our thoughts and prayers are with her family and her children tonight. So, as we say, on with the show. Like the US Congress, council members are New York City's legislative body. Separate from the mayor's administration, the city council is an equal partner in how our city is run. They introduce and vote on legislation or propose laws on all aspects of city life, including real estate and housing issues, especially those that affect HDFCs. They monitor city agencies such as the Department of Housing, Preservation and Development to make sure that they are effectively serving HDFC shareholders. They can review a mayor's set of policies that affect HDFCs and can make decisions about the growth, development, and stability of HDFCs throughout the city. HDFCs have been an anchor for community development in Council District 7 and throughout our great city. The district has the highest number of privately held HDFC buildings and homeowner units, more so than in any other district in the city, with approximately 194 buildings and 4,300 apartments, representing approximately 8,000 voters who are all interested in your vision for HDFCs. 4 sets of questions will be asked on the issues that concern HDFC shareholders, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond so that sufficient time can be dedicated to field questions from, actually, we are not going to do a Q&A tonight because we have so many candidates. So we're just going to do the 4 questions, and then every candidate will have an opportunity to give a 2-minute closing statement. So that said, let's start with the opening statements. And I think we have most of our candidates here this evening. I think I see everybody here. And so we'll start in alphabetical order. 2-minute opening statement. John McBride will hold up a little phone that will count down to 2 minutes so that you're sort of given a little heads up of when that ends. So starting with Shaun Abreu, your opening statement.
Well, thank you, HDFC Coalition, for convening us. I extend my heartfelt condolences to April Tyler. In full disclosure, I got my second Pfizer vaccine today, so if I'm a bit incoherent, you know why. I'm fighting for home. This is the place I've known my entire life. I am the proud son of Dominican immigrants. I am the proud son of Council District 7. This is the place I've known my whole life. I attended public schools in Washington Heights and in Manhattan Valley, attended Columbia University in the dead center of the district. And we are here because of so many of the experiences that shaped me and shaped a lot of the folks in Council District 7. I know the fear of losing one's home. Like the HDFC members, they all are constant under threat by the city. They don't have their right to self-determination and the right to self-autonomy, which is causing concern. When I was a young boy, I was evicted from my apartment. And I came home from school one day to find my mom holding an eviction notice at our kitchen table. Now I'm a tenant rights attorney, fighting to keep families in their homes. And when I get to the city council, I'm gonna make it my #1 effort to make sure that the HDFC homeowners who've poured their sweat equity, to make sure that they have their investment back expectation, that we keep them in our neighborhoods. And I'm excited tonight to talk about all of these policies and to address your questions with some substantive policy. And again, I'm fighting for home, and I'm looking forward to tonight's conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you, Shaun. Marti Cummings.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for hosting us tonight. It's always good to see my fellow candidates. You know, I, as many of you know, served on the community board with April, and she is greatly missed and taught me a lot when I joined the board. But I'm grateful to meet with all of you this evening. You know, I'm not a typical candidate. I've been a drag artist my entire adult life almost, which is not a typical path to running for office, but one that I think makes me uniquely qualified as a gig worker who knows what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck in a city increasingly built for the wealthy. I decided to run for office because I wanted to have those voices heard at the table. I'm the first non-binary candidate in New York City history, which I'm extremely proud of. And while drag may not be a typical path to running for office, it's what taught me about community building and community organizing and led me to Occupy Wall Street 11 years ago and to working with the Ali Forney Center for Homeless Youth, LGBTQIA+ youth, and then to the community board where I now serve on the senior issues committee. We're fighting for true equitability, transparency, budget justice, prioritizing housing, education, environmental justice, police accountability and reform, making sure that we're funding social services, mental health care services, addiction services, which as somebody in recovery for 10 years is personal to me. We need to prioritize the people of this city, people over profits, you know, and I'm proud to be in this race. And we have a lot of great candidates in this race. People have a lot of great choices. And with ranked choice, we can engage voters in a positive, productive way, which I'm excited for.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marti. Daniel Cohen, Dan the man.
Thank you, Michael. And I see John McBride is the fierce timekeeper. So good evening to you all at the HDFC Coalition. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm running for City Council because I believe I have the most energy, experience, and ideas to help our community recover from this pandemic and grow anew. I'm the elected Democratic State Committeeman for the 69th Assembly District. I won overwhelmingly when I first ran in 2010. I've been reelected 5 times since then. I've been in the trenches with progressive causes and candidates for a while. Long before the No IDC movement, I was outraged when incoming State Senator Marisol Alcantara said she would join the Republican IDC. And I worked hard to elect Robert Jackson to the state Senate the following cycle and was gratified that we succeeded. I'm proud to have recently received Senator Jackson's endorsement And as part of the state committee, I'm also a founder of the Progressive Caucus, a voice of reform within the state party. I grew up in rent-regulated housing. My father was the in-house lawyer for the Tenant Association fighting back against Stellar Management, which owned the building at the time. I also live in rent-regulated housing today. I've gone to Albany repeatedly to press for tenant regulations and protections and was gratified to see many of them made permanent. I have stood with fellow tenants for more than 30 years. Today, I'm asking you to stand with me in my campaign for city council. I'm a lifelong resident of the West Side, now 50 years. I grew up on the West Side and now live in the West Side with my son, and with my wife and our son Caleb, who's 8 years old and attends local public school. And as a proud New York City public school graduate and a public school parent serving on the school PTA, I have seen firsthand the struggles our school face and why tackling them is so critical. For the last decade, I've worked for an affordable housing not-for-profit, the Housing Partnership, which has helped create 50,000 HDFCs, albeit mostly preservation of rental units and not co-ops. And working in affordable housing, I've seen the urgency of the issue. As a member of Community Board 9, I've advocated for 1,000 new affordable units in the district, and I've refused to accept money from real estate developers, so my perspective is clear. Ultimately, I believe that climate change is the biggest threat that we face, and I look forward to working with you all to stop that as well. I would be grateful for the coalition support. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much. Stacy Lynch.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to the coalition for organizing tonight's forum. I'm so happy to be here tonight. Most of you know me through my dad, Bill Lynch, but I'm also a neighbor. I've lived here for almost 25 years, and we live in a district that is so diverse, culturally, racially, and economically. But a person's zip code should not determine the quality of housing, education, healthcare, or fresh foods. Affordable housing is critically important. It's a human right. And HDFCs are often the first and only opportunity for home ownership, particularly the working class. I'm a candidate that fights for equity and believes in equality in every aspect of our lives. While working in city government for almost 2 years, I work closely with my dear friend, April and Sylvia Tyler, Councilmember Robert Carnegie, state elected officials, and others to address harmful policies like third-party transfer. After reading an article in the local Brooklyn paper about TPT, I flagged it to the mayor and my colleagues that this was a problematic program. I continue to fight for HDFCs and the importance of home ownership for our communities. I look forward to tonight's conversation, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Stacy. Maria Ordonez.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you, HDFC Coalition, for hosting this forum, and thank you for all of you who are attending. My name is Maria Ordonez, and I'm a candidate for City Council in District 7. I'm a lifelong resident of West Harlem, where I was born and raised in 3333 Broadway. And I'm running for City Council because it's time that we finally have change. It's time that working class New Yorkers have a seat at the table, because for far too long, we've been ignored at the local, state, and federal level. Excuse my dogs, it's the damn time of the day when they have to walk outside. And you know, I'm fighting for housing justice. I'm fighting for environmental justice. I'm fighting for education justice. I'm fighting for our community. And to me, it's really important that we make sure that we're elevating the voices of homeowners. We're making sure that we're elevating the voices of those that are often not heard. You know, when we talk about housing, we talk about you know, affordability. We usually don't talk about affordable homeownership. We need to make sure we're elevating those voices. And it's important that we talk about, you know, those that have been most marginalized, you know, giving agency to women of color, giving agency to the minority that want to own their own home. They want to get to the middle class. It's time that we expand home ownership. It's time that we make sure that we provide them with the relief they need, especially throughout this pandemic, and to make sure that, you know, they can actually live there and generationally pass down their home ownership to whomever they want to, and make sure that, you know, they're getting what they need and support they need, because in an urban lifestyle that we're living in, homeownership is something that people really want, and making sure that we expand it and making sure that we're allowing people to be safely live where they want to and be able to afford it. It's important. So I really look forward to answering your questions, and I look forward to you know, talking with all of you about this.
Gracias, Maria. Corey Ortega. Unmute yourself. Okay.
Hey, how you doing, everyone? Thank you for having me in the HDFC Coalition. I'm going to focus on two parts of my background and then a few bullet points. I started early out in my career as a tenant organizer, literally knocking on doors of communities of color and preventing their eviction, making sure they stay in their homes. And I see a correlation here where not only do you want to make sure homeowners stay in their home to maintain their home ownership, but make sure you protect their equity as well. I also had the chance to work in government city council as executive director of the city council's Black, Latino, and Asian caucus, alongside 26 council members, which a lot of those council members had to deal with HDFCs and issue Article 11s and vote on it at city council. And I had a chance to work closely, again, it was mentioned, with Councilman Robert Cornegy, who chairs the Housing and Buildings Committee. And I'm very fortunate to also receive his endorsement for this race. But here are a couple bullet points that relate with my 57 seconds left. With me and my candidacy, and if I win, I am not in favor of price caps on the resale of HDFC shares. And I'm equally against the regulatory agreement for any financial assistance that isn't asked of market rate co-ops, because it doesn't make sense. I'd work with my city council colleagues on charter revision that changes the makeup of these agencies, HPD, DEP, and other agencies that are under the supervision of city council, but to give us more oversight over these agencies so we can stop some of the issues that we've been facing with the mayor. I would replace the damn tax, but I would also go a step further with an enhanced tax credit that's 150% of the regular co-op and condo tax abatement, because we see an inequity here between HDFCs, with co-op and condo tax credits and HDFCs, and I want to rebalance those inequities. And lastly, I will draft legislation for an HDFC relief package because communities benefit from stability and long-term investment. I yield my time.
Great, thank you, Corey. Ray Sanchez Jr. You're unmute yourself, right?
And the clock is running. Good evening. I'm Ray Sanchez. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm a lifelong Manhattanite. Grew up in the Baruch NYCHA houses, and I've been a co-op homeowner in this district for almost 15 years. And I'm running because after 4 years of Trump, 7 years de Blasio incompetence, we desperately need smart, hardworking, knowledgeable, experienced public servants now more than ever before. I'm an attorney with a 20-year career across diverse sectors. I've been in academia as an adjunct professor. I've been in nonprofit. I'm currently CEO of a homeless shelter organization. I did 7 years in New York government, general counsel of the Bronx Borough president. And together we can bring New York City back. Throughout my career, I've been dedicated to creating a better city for all New Yorkers. Again, currently I serve as a CEO of a homeless shelter provider where I'm literally every day working for our neediest New Yorkers. And in my personal time, whether it's the Board of Arte Education or the LUL Foundation, I've raised thousands and thousands upon dollars of scholarships and after-school programs, and we drive success for low-income students my entire career. When it comes to my policy platforms, I tilt heavy towards education because education is necessary for making sure we have an economic recovery. Because if people don't feel they can educate their kids here, they will leave. Talent leaves, employers will leave, and there goes our economic recovery. Essential workers, we need more co-ops. Co-ops for essential workers, reward teachers and everyone else who got us through this pandemic with Paths to Hope ownership opportunity. And then the homelessness. After being CEO of a homeless services provider funded by DHS, it's clear to me that we have to fundamentally change how we operate. After publishing a worst landlords list for 10 years, it's time being on that list has some consequences. It's time to take those properties and put them to work for people who deserve them. I'm Ray Sanchez. I got 10 extra seconds. All good.
You're good? You're good?
All good.
You got the time?
It's fine.
All right, very good. Before we begin with the questions, I want to acknowledge my co-host tonight, Cheryl Douglas. Cheryl Douglas is with the 35 Mount Morris Park West HDFC. Hi, Cheryl. Okay, so she's my my backup just in case something happens to me.
Mike,
Yes,
could you make a quick announcement that we're now purchasing our own Zoom account? It would be wonderful if people would be able to go to the HDFC Coalition webpage and make a small donation, whatever they
why
can.
don't you say that, John?
Okay. I said
And
it.
you just did. Very good. Thank you very much, everybody. And now for the first question. For immigrants and people of color in Council District 7, HDFCs have been a rare opportunity to build generational wealth as a buffer against poverty. HDFC homeowners have created a path out of poverty to acquire economic stability by saving their buildings and securing their homes. Affordability for HDFC homeowners then is said to be the cost of their monthly maintenance, using the resale of share units to fund capital improvements, comply with city local laws, and other unexpected costs. And now the question to you and every one of you is, are you in favor of price caps on the resale of HDFC shares and the units they represent, and why? And as a corollary to that, what do you see are the affordability concerns for HDFC homeowners? And we'll begin with Shaun Abreu.
Well, thank you for that question, Michael. I think for me, this is an easy one. I am not in favor of price caps, and I would support legislation that would eliminate sales cap and monitors for HDFCs. And the reasoning for that is we know that for so many years, our low-income homeowners, primarily in communities of color, have poured in their sweat equity and investment-backed expectation. And so we should not be interfering with those goals, and we should be honoring the self-determination, but also the autonomy of our HDFC homeowners. That's
very good.
I yield back my time.
Very good. Thank you so much. Marti Cummings.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Shaun on that. I don't support the price caps. I think they would lead to corruption in many ways. Price caps will essentially, devalue the assets of HDFC owners, particularly, folks of color, people of color, who this is maybe their first opportunity at home ownership. We need to make sure that we are prioritizing people's places to live, and affordability. It's not just about the cost of the home, it's the monthly costs that go with that. So we need to ensure that low income and middle income people have the ability to pay, so they're not falling behind on taxes or water bills or electricity. I yield my time as well. Thank you.
Oh, very good. Thank you so much, Marti. Daniel Cohen.
I don't have much to add except an observation that this seems like a uniquely American cultural problem where we regard free riders. There are very few HDFCs that trade at very high numbers. The vast majority, first of all, the vast majority don't trade at all. They're not sold. And the ones that are sold at considerably low and affordable level prices. But the Post will get wind of a single unit selling at high six figures and freak out. I think we should be recognizing, and I'm sure my colleagues do, the vast benefits that HDFC co-ops have provided for the neighborhoods that they're in, and that if there's an occasional unit that trades at a higher price point, as long as it's complying with the private housing finance law, I don't see any problem with that. So no, I don't favor caps.
Yeah. And what do you say about affordability, Dan? What do you think is the affordability concern for HDFC?
I don't think there's an affordability concern. The HDFCs are all governed by the private housing finance law, which is 165% of AMI. And most of them trade at considerably less than that, often half that when they trade at all. So I don't think there's an affordability issue at all.
Michael, can I answer that part question? I forgot to answer that.
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead.
So Shaun taking my time? Oh, snap.
No, are you here?
Go ahead. No, I'm done. I yield my time to Shaun. No, we're all friendly. We're all good. Go ahead, Shaun.
So
I'll give Shaun 20 seconds of my time too.
I can do it in 20. If with respect to real estate taxes, I think that's a big issue right now. I think that speaks to affordability issues. I would support that legislation that allows HDFCs to receive 25 to 35 years of a repayment agreement for real estate taxes at 1.25 interest rate. As we know, it's at 9% in 10 years, but this would be a change and this would lower the interest rate while expanding the period, which I think HDFC homeowners are in dire need for.
Great, thank you for that follow-up. Stacy Lynch.
I get to jump in the ring, huh, on this one?
Yeah.
Be contrarian. Say something off the wall.
You know what? I will. How about that, Dan? Honestly, I don't have a yes or no answer for this question. I believe the rationale behind price caps was to really encourage affordable home ownership for the working class. However, price caps tend to harm HDFCs in many ways, particularly in communities of color. Ultimately, sales should probably have a cap because HDFCs are a vehicle to middle-class home ownership. But I'm open to exploring, other options, including relief, interest-free loan programs for first-time home owners, et cetera. When it comes to affordability concerns for HDFC homeowners, HDFCs, especially in District 7, are seeing, neighborhoods or their neighbors sell units at prices that have skyrocketed in recent years. So you're already operating at a disadvantage, right? And on top of that, HDFC reserves and operating budget is low due to repressed sale prices. Then on top of that, the city comes for back taxes, water liens, failing to perform for energy efficiency, which ultimately forces HDFCs into programs like TPT. So it's almost creating like a very vicious cycle designed to grab property from longstanding residents that were here before and new working class, right? My suggestion is we clearly involve coalitions and folks such as yourself that really know about HDFCs to figure out what is a fair process. Done.
Stacy, thank you so much, Stacy. Maria Ordonez.
All right, Stacy was right at the spot with the 1 minute. All right, so
come on, Maria, come on.
I'm against the price caps, and the reason for that is because a lot of it can lead to corruption. I think instead of that, we need to be looking at a lot of these homeowners want to maintain generational value, so we need to instead invest in a green fund and making sure that we transition these buildings to more sustainable areas and support it through a fund from the city, so homeowners can maintain their value or increase value, and generationally it will support them. In terms of affordability, the way I see it is that we need to make sure that especially throughout this pandemic, people can actually pay for their bills. And that means that if they can't, the city should come in and they should support them. There's no reason that then they have to face debt, they have to go through the third-party transfer. We need to make sure that people can pay for their bills, and we need relief right now, and we need to support people, especially those who are low-income homeowners who are going transitioning to the middle class, but we need to support them so they can keep their home.
Great. Thank you so much, Maria. Coy Ortega.
Hey, thank you. And if I can, I don't think I can see John with the clock. He doesn't pop up like in the first few people.
I talk.
Oh, hey, there you go.
It's probably your settings. If you do a grid view, you can probably see me.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thank you. Like I said before, I'm not in favor of price caps on the resale of HDFC shares because lower income homeowners should be afforded the same rights and self-determination and autonomy as other homeowners in the city. And when I mean other homeowners, I'm going to get to that in a moment. The equity for shareholders of color, right? People that look like us in our community should not be limited or removed when the equity of higher income homeowners is actively supported or propped by other city dollars, right? And when I'm talking about other highly, the co-op and condos tax abatements that are nothing compared to HDFCs and is basically an inequity. In terms of what do I see the concerns of affordability for HDFC owners, affordability is for the homeowner to stay in their home. I said this before, and build equity, ensure that their homes are in sound condition and economically self-sufficient. Affordability for shareholders is the monthly out-of-pocket cost, including maintenance and amortized property tax liabilities, 44 seconds. Liabilities that are increased by caps on the resale because the valuations of the HDFCs are artificially held down such that they do not qualify for the tax exemptions. This is a racket. You have a damn tax that you don't qualify because your tax valuations are FUBAR to begin with. Check it up, that's in a German dictionary. And also leaving them to bear the full cost while higher value properties receive greater city subsidies on their tax bill. With 15 seconds left, it's about rebalancing inequities. And right now we've seen, and especially in the pandemic, that Black and brown folk HDFC shareholders are getting even a shorter portion of the stick now more than ever. And we have to do that as a city council body.
Good. Thank you, Corey. Ray Sanchez Jr.
So quickly, I agree with everyone that we shouldn't implement price caps. That just creates distortions in the market. You know, the AMI, the income limitations have worked to keep these. You know, you need some control in place, and the income limitations have been helpful, right? We have to be careful because we don't want to unleash, investor speculation, which drives, exponential appreciation in a short amount of time that creates valuation distortions. And we have a real issue in these communities. Like United Hospital Fund put out a paper in June 2020 where Manhattanville, Morningside Heights, Hampton Heights, and West Harlem, 63% of the residents are in some sort of maintenance deficient situation. That's a problem. You know, so when it comes to the affordability, I'm with Shaun on this. This is basically a structured finance question, right? You've got to go building by building, have realistic assessments about the sustainability of the finances of those buildings. If HPD can go building by building with private property owners, they can do it with HDFCs to create green retrofits so that we can fix the systemic issues with the maintenance of these buildings, do the green retrofits for the long term, so you lower the overhead costs of these buildings, and then you make them more economically salvageable, right? And you don't need to over-regulate HDFCs unnecessarily by imposing, whether it's the Epstein bill and Open Albee or what have you. There's plenty of stuff available to roll this out in a way that you have structured, smart financing over the long term. And as a co-op owner, I can empathize with the frustrations over year-to-year maintenance increases.
Great. Thank you, Ray. Thank you so much. I think that takes care for the first round of the first question. The second question is, there are many agencies with which HDFC homeowners must interact. Chief among them are the Department of Finance and to pay their property tax and water and sewer charges, and HPD, the Department of Housing Preservation and Development. The city's a supervisory agency and the creator/enforcer of housing policies, programs, and regulations. All too often, these agencies promote policies that are antithetical to the autonomy and viability of HDFCs. Now, this is a multi-faceted set of questions, so please listen carefully. What specifically would your office do to ensure that the concerns of HDFCs are heard before these agencies, especially continuing attempts to foist HDFCs with regulatory agreements, changes to their corporate certificate of incorporation, and to place HDFCs into foreclosure lists? Similarly, would you vote to remove an HDFC from foreclosure into the TPT program at the city council session to vote for foreclosures so that they may apply for an Article 11 tax amnesty? And would you support a moratorium for HDFC's foreclosures? And I'm going to change up the order here a little bit, and we're going to start out with Maria Ordonez.
All right, so that was a loaded question. So
Yes.
I'm going to start with what will you do with the concerns, and with these agencies? So first and foremost, we need to stop HPD regulatory agreements. Those deny self-determination. Those do not support homeowners. We need to make sure to have more oversight over HPD and make sure that HPD stands for Housing Preservation and Development. A lot of it can get conflated in preservation and development. So we need to make sure, if possible, maybe divide the HPD into two sets. and make sure we have more oversight of it. So we actually helping homeowners. In terms of the removing foreclosure Article 11 amnesty, yes, I would support supporting homeowners with the Article 11 amnesty. And on a moratorium on HDFC foreclosure, absolutely, we need to do that. We need to have done that yesterday. We have a pandemic, and there's no reason why anyone should get foreclosed, especially now where people are unemployed, facing debt. We need to be there to help them. We need to make sure that we are not allowing the HDFCs to go into the third-party transfer system, because a lot of it's fed by the real estate industry. A lot of it's fed by elected officials who are taking real estate money and then want to remove homeownership. And homeownership is really important. Giving agency to people, allowing them to have an opportunity to own a home. So as much as we can do to maintain that is important for me.
Great. Maria, thank you so much. Dan Cohen. Dan the man.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to ask someone else to go in my place. I'm having a minor child.
Sure. We'll get right back to you. Marti.
Please indulge me.
Did you call me Michael? Sorry, I couldn't hear. They called me? Okay. First I would fight to keep
Marti Cummings.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. Thanks, love. So first I would fight to keep HDFCs off of the TPT list, and we absolutely should be considering a moratorium. We have to find a way to right the harms that have been done by TPTs. People have lost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in equity through no fault of their own. So we need to protect home ownership, make sure that people are provided for and are given recovery relief from this pandemic so they don't fall behind on bills. We shouldn't be having foreclosures or evictions at all in this city. They're acts of violence. I talk about this all the time. It's like, it's morally bankrupt, especially in a pandemic. So we have to fight for people to keep their homes. And like Maria said, not have the real estate development industry push people out, but continue to allow people to have access to housing and home ownership. And I will use my final minute to say this. I let the moderators know ahead of time. I do have to go to work tonight as a gig worker. You sometimes have to show up to be able to pay those bills after being out of work for a year. So I'll leave my info in the chat, and my staff is staying on to listen to all the questions. And I'll just close with, I will always fight for home ownerships. I will always fight to support an extension of DAMP as well as DAMP 2.0 and support relief for HDFCs without any, regulatory strings attached. And I'll work to pass a Green New Deal that includes capital funding for HDFC upgrades. And again, I apologize, I have to leave to go to work, but I thank you all for having me, and I will put my info in the chat. So anybody, please feel free to check out our website and reach out to me. And thank you again for hosting.
Thank you, Marti. Shaun Abreu.
I heard my name. So
yes.
Well, first and foremost, it is important. I will support legislation that allows HDFCs to be exempt from being foreclosed and transfer the TPT program. That's first and foremost. I will also support legislation at a minimum to make sure that we're providing early intervention services for TPT, like notification to elected officials and HDFC advocacy groups like the Coalition. I would also, as council member, help to ensure that HDFCs be in good standing within the 3-year period after the TPT lists are issued. As I'm going to have a dedicated staff in my office that's going to be in touch with the Coalition to make sure that we're monitoring these cases closely. I will also require that 3 letters be delivered to HDFC shareholders, return receipt requested, and conduct meetings with all the buildings, HDFC buildings that are impacted to plan next steps. With respect to the first question, I mean, it's clear that regulatory agreements are problematic, right? That's how the city, exerts control and at the expense of HDFC homeowners. And so, we're seeing the draconian regulatory agreements with sales caps and marketing plans, and we need to change that. And so I want the coalition to know that I'm going to be standing with, I'll be standing with you at every step of the way to make sure that we're getting it right.
Shaun, thank you so much. Dan, can we go back to you or should we?
No, we're good. Sorry. There was my kid was doing his homework and he fell asleep and he woke up and he was
Okay.
sorry. It's crisis averted. Third grade math. Okay, so sorry if you could. The question is about TPT. I'm opposed to TPT. Actually, I think the TPT program has little merit. I just as soon eliminate completely the TPT program. Also, the challenges of TPT is that when housing units go into it, they cost exponentially more, often more than the taxes that are outstanding and other water and sewer charges. So we're just purely from a taxpayer perspective, we're actually spending more money through TPT, leaving the moral issue aside. We're spending more money through TPT than we would be if we were to just help the individual HFCs rehabilitate themselves. Shaun made some good points. I'm sorry I stepped away a little bit for some of my other colleagues, but I agree with them as well. I'm sorry, a little discombobulated. Was there other items to the question I can address in my 1 minute?
Would you, in a city council session,
yeah,
vote out of
this administration has historically, I mean, it began actually with the Bloomberg administration, which regarded the HDFC co-op program as a failure and has worked hard to reduce or eliminate it. And that's continued over, in part because I think you had similar staff, same staff, who feel the same way, who don't regard the HDFC program as what it is, which is a tremendous success for safe and stable, secure home ownership for middle-income New Yorkers, and instead is regarded as a failure and something that should be eliminated. So that's going to require a change in City Hall, which we're getting, shortly, and a new City Council, which is considerably going to be more vigorous on HDFC and home ownership programs. And I think that we're going to see better treatment of HDFCs coming forward. I appreciate Shaun's idea about a staff person. When I get elected to the City Council, I intend to borrow that with credit, of course, to Shaun. Although that person is going to be very busy because you've got a lot of HDFC units that are going to need a lot of attention. So, I mean, that's more than one full-time job. That's maybe even a couple of full-time people, but I appreciate
fantastic. And yes or no, do you support a moratorium on HDFC foreclosures?
Yes, I support a moratorium on HDFC foreclosures.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Stacy Lynch.
All righty. Let me start by saying, Dan, you are a wonderful father. How about that? As someone,
can you call my wife right now?
I will, Dan.
For my marriage.
I will.
I'll text her.
Wait, you're taking up my time. You're taking up my time, Dan. You're taking up my time. Thank you.
She's speaking.
As someone that worked in the mayor's office of intergovernmental affairs for almost 10 years, I'm very familiar with interagency coordination. I lived it. I'm sure some of my colleagues on this call, like Corey and Ray and others, we lived it, we breathed it. And, I effectively pushed agencies to work with communities to resolve solutions. HPD and other agencies can no longer work in a bubble. And that's the reality. Hopefully the new leadership, the new mayor and the new council will eliminate regulatory agreements. But if not, I think, people should be aware that HPD is currently retooling regulatory agreements, and they're doing it in a vacuum. So we really need input from real HDFCs on this process. Dan and Shaun, unfortunately, it was my idea to have a housing liaison. You can check out my website. It's up there right now. That will address this and other housing related issues full-time, 24/7. And I also propose that we have a working group that meet regularly with agencies to address issues with buildings and within the district, and work to get those, buildings out of foreclosure issues or TPT programs. And finally, actually a couple more things. If agencies do not push and work cooperatively with the working group and coalitions such as yourself, then as a council member, I will call them to task and hold hearings. And then also language access is critically important. We have an incredibly beautiful and diverse district from Washington Heights, West Harlem to the Upper West Side. So I think the next council member, hopefully myself, we need to be critically aware of the language access barriers as it relates to housing, and how do we connect all of that? I know I have took up a lot of time, so the final two questions, I'll be very quick, yes and yes.
Okay, so yes to moratorium on HDFC
Yes.
foreclosures. Okay,
Yep.
great, thank you, thank you. Let's see, Corey, Ortega.
Ortega.
Hey, so to make sure that HDFC's voices are heard, I would advocate for our homeowners by calling on commissioners of those agencies to report before the city council and answer questions and concerns. I'd also introduce and argue for the budgetary priorities of HDFCs during the city's budget negotiation to extend or renew the damp tax break. But I would go a step further, because my experience in city council is that the mayor holds a lot of sway, if not all the sway, with regards to these regulatory agreements where the city council has no legislative authority over. I want to go beyond that, beyond advocacy, beyond reporting. I want to create real-time city council agency oversight by reforming the city's constitution, which is known as the charter. I'd work with my city council colleagues on charter revision bills that would bring these agencies under more direct supervision of the council. We need to increase the role of city council in oversight and supervision of these city agencies, because the city councils have because city council members directly respond to the concerns of the residents to a degree that the mayor's office does not. In terms of voting to remove HDFCs from foreclosures and in favor of Article 11, yes, I'd vote to stop foreclosures and third-party transfers, but I wouldn't hesitate to make sure that it gets to the committee calendar to bring it to a full vote. Many times I've seen working at city council where you ring the alarm bells and you say, hey, council member, I need you to vote on this now. And then something happens where it gets stuck in the mud and it's voted 6 months later, and everyone is worried whether they're going to keep their home ownership or not.
That's very true, Corey. Yeah.
Thank you. We must make sure to make every effort to keep shareholders in control of their homes. And given the disproportionate impact of COVID-19, the resulting economic fallout of people of color, we must be mindful of the historic inequities in housing and home ownership to prevent those same mistakes from happening again. Yes, because communities benefit from stability. There we go.
A moratorium on HDFC foreclosures? Yes, no?
Hell yeah, yes. And if we don't, you should just fire us right now. Don't even vote for us if we say no on this, because if this is what you're electing us to do, we have to go and protect our people.
Fantastic. Ray Sanchez. Ray, I'm sorry, I tried to mix it up and you still came out to be one of the final answerers. I'm going to make you first at the next one. Go ahead, Ray.
I appreciate it. And it'll cost me 10 seconds.
Right. No, don't worry.
I'm playing with you guys. Look, it's all good. I'll do the foreclosure part of the question first. Look, unless there's a structural health or safety concern, why are we even talking about foreclosures? Do you want this program to succeed or not? We all want these programs to succeed. One. On the first half of the question, in terms of the policies in which agencies do it, water, sewer bills. Look, I've seen the city negotiate water bills with all kinds of landlords. So let's not act like there isn't room here and the city doesn't use it as a tool all the time, right? If you want to remove bias out of a situation, then you need to articulate objective metrics to hold the city agencies accountable, right? So draft legislation to implement those metrics with the coalition's input so that they're consistent across the board as to what the metrics are to trigger appropriate, again, structured finance to put these buildings in position to be successful, right? Either you're part of the problem or you're part of the solution. So again, what are the objective metrics that we can articulate so that we're putting people on a path to success, right? And look, depending on the income levels of these buildings, right? I've seen, Con Ed and other utilities have special pricing for utilities based on certain income levels. Why aren't we doing the same for HDFCs, right? Why are they paying full market rate for a watt of energy when these are clearly, again, income adjusted properties, right, that are below market rate intentionally, right? Because we need to create policies for the people who live here, who have been here, and not policies like 421A that were meant to favor related and to inspire to build housing for people who don't live here. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ray. Okay. I think that takes care of that round of questioning. I think I reached everybody. Question number 3. HPD's dam tax exemption for HDFC cooperatives is necessary to keep HDFCs not only affordable, but to prevent financial distress and possible foreclosure. The dam tax break for HDFCs was created in 1989 and it will expire in 2029. If a replacement tax break for HDFCs is not addressed at the state level through an amendment to the private housing finance law, it will likely fall on the city council to deal with the issue. Now, here's the question. What is your position on the need to renew or replace the dam tax break for HDFCs? And what do you see as a viable replacement for this tax break that keeps HDFCs both affordable and financially stable? And as promised, I will start with Ray Sanchez first.
Sure, and great question, and I applaud the coalition for sounding the alarm on this, because 2029 is not far away, right? And you leave it up to government historically, they'll wait to the last minute to do anything, right? So I applaud the coalition for being proactive on this. And the reality is, New York, there needs to be extension of the dam tax credit, right? End of story. Yes, we all have to, as the next council, we have to promote this and work with leaders in Albany to get that done. But the reality is we need comprehensive property tax reform and property tax credit across the board, whether it's, and also lobbying in Congress, right? They're talking about the next stimulus bill having SALT revoked. And thank God our delegation in New York is fighting to have SALT taken back, but that's across the board. We have to do property tax and property tax credit across the board needs to be reformed dramatically, right? If Hudson Yards cannot pay almost nothing in property taxes, why are we giving HDFCs a hard time about getting renewing their tax credit to keep homeowners in their longstanding homeowners in their properties? Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Stacy Lynch. You're muted.
I'm on mute. I'm on mute. I'll start by saying I need to learn more about DAM, right? And I think, a lot of probably my colleagues also, we need to dig a little deeper on this issue. My district in the city has an affordable housing problem. We need more affordable housing. And, as Ray alluded to earlier, this deadline is fastly approaching. If I were elected city council member, I would renew the dam tax break, but I would renew it so that it's fair for HDFC homeowners. And again, I want to push back on regulatory agreements. I don't think that should be on the table at all. To answer your second question, listen, I would work closely and in collaboration with the coalition, my friends in the state, and other important agencies to draft this new legislation so that it truly supports home ownership. And then I think we also need to get creative about other programs that can support home ownership, whether it's loan programs, et cetera. I think this is something that, I'm not gonna lie, I need to dig a little deeper on this topic.
Right, thank you for your honesty, Stacy, thank you so much. Shaun Abreu.
I will support a renewal of dam tax for 40 years without agreeing to regulatory agreement at a lower payment rate than what is currently required. In order to continue the affordability of shareholders of HDFCs, I am willing to support a dam tax that would exempt HDFCs from paying real estate taxes. And yeah, that's my answer.
Great, well, thank you so much, Shaun. Cohen Ortega. Corey,
Hey, thank you. So I would advocate to replace the dam credit on the state level, but more importantly, if it fails, I would create a New York City enhanced HDFC tax credit that is 150% of the co-op and condo tax abatement. This increase benefit is a recognition that the HDFC co-ops are entitled to greater benefits than market rate co-ops. These means will promote and protect housing affordability in New York City and provide financial and neighborhood stability to HDFCs. Why? Because other co-ops of greater means are given more financial support by the city. Because we have an affordable housing crisis, not a luxury crisis. We need to protect and preserve these affordable units and not displace the disproportionately minority shareholders that look like you and I as we rebuild our local economy from this pandemic. At the minimum, dams should be renewed, but not held over the heads of homeowners as leverage to force them to give up their autonomy and financial independence. But like I said, I would go a step further and advocate on the state level for an enhanced HDFC tax credit. But if it does not pass at the state level, what I know I have the authority as a city council member is to pass the New York City enhanced HDFC tax credit.
very good. Thank you so much, Corey. Maria Ordonez.
Yeah, so I support the renewal of this bill, and we have to work as a coalition with people in the state legislature and people here like all of you, the HDFC coalition, to make sure that that happens. And we need to make sure that any and all bills have no strings attached. So we need to make sure that homeowners have the ability for self-determination and fully be the homeowners they want to be. And beyond that, I think that Ray brought up a great point about Hudson Yards has a lot of tax breaks, but then people here who are homeowners, you still have to pay property tax, and you still face a lot of taxes. So we need to make sure that we're providing tax breaks, and we are ultimately leading the way to ensure that they can stay as homeowners and they can keep their place. And yeah, so I would support the renewal of this bill.
Great, thank you. And Dan Cohen.
When they created the Division of Alternative Management Programs almost 40 years ago, the tax break had a relevance at the time. But I think Corey even pointed out earlier on in this conversation that the tax break is uneven and unequally distributed and doesn't seem to be working very well. So I don't know if really extending it does a whole lot of good, because you're still going to perpetuate the problem that we haven't addressed. And even if you try to reform it and change the legislation, I'm worried that runs with, what's the expression that, like sort of camel's nose under the tent. Like you wind up with a far more complicated bill that may actually have a lot of things in it that we don't want. We actually already have a tax break program that works very well, and that's just in Article 11. And I think we should be moving HDFC co-ops from a dam tax to an Article 11, which is already governed by the private housing finance law and already provides greater tax abatement enhancements for affordable housing, while also protecting the homeownership rights of the residents. I know this has come up sometimes before, and I don't know if the coalition has taken a strong position on it either way, but it seems to me that seems a cleaner solution than going and trying to do more legislation. And don't even have to do anything within the city council itself. On a case-by-case basis, we can individually assign new HDFCs, new Article 11s. So that's my position on it. I would welcome further discussion. I think Stacy made an excellent point that there's a deeper level of tax policy than, I'm certainly happy to discuss it, but I think that probably all of us would want to go into that discussion further. I yield the rest of my time. Thanks.
Okay, great. And for the final question, we're going to go back to the alphabetical order. I'll read the question and then start with Shaun. And this will be the last questions, and then you'll get an opportunity to have a 2-minute closing statement. Lastly, the COVID-19 pandemic has threatened the financial stability of many HDFC homeowners and their buildings. Indeed, of approximately 194 HDFCs in Council District 7, more than 15% are officially distressed, with another 7 to 9 on a slippery slope towards the same fate. However, there is no specific assistance or relief efforts for these homeowners or for their HDFC co-ops. Now here's the question. Will you propose legislation to help HDFCs with a relief package, especially with respect to real estate and water and sewer charges, their interest and penalties for untimely payments? And would you require HDFC or require HPD to have HDFC sign a regulatory agreement for that financial assistance. And we'll start with Shaun Abreu.
Yes, I would support legislation with a relief package, and no, I will not adhere to a regulatory agreement. It's always the city's way to navigate outside and really hurt against that self-determination. So absolutely not. And in closing, since I have to, leave my Mr. Palmer, I would also support the elimination of predatory and abusive high interest rate imposed by HDFC, by the New York City Department of Finance and DEP, which in many cases, these interest rates are as high as 18%, compounded daily or sometimes 750% annually. I'm fighting for home. This is the place I've known my entire life. And as I've said before, this neighborhood is literally the most diverse district in Council District 7, as Stacy said. And I think that we require a dynamic leader who will be representative of all of our interests, including our homeowners. And to conclude, Mark Levine has endorsed our campaign for City Council. He has been a strong supporter of the coalition, and I seek to emulate his leadership with respect to that relationship he has with the coalition moving forward. Thank you all.
Oh, thank you, Shaun. We'll go straight then to Dan Cohen.
I support the HDFC coalition's position on this about legislation that would enable the HDFCs that are in distress to have a package that would get out from under their the water and sewer charges and other tax defers that haven't been paid. And I don't favor a regulatory agreement for it. I will say, though, that the small fraction of HDFCs that are in significant disarray, which doesn't just mean distress, but like, absentee ownership and something else, may fall into a third category that I want to explore with the coalition's input on this. But there are, you made reference to 15%. We'll stay with that number that are in significant distress, and there's also a bunch that are really sort of like completely like they have no governance. There's the HDFCs are absentee ownership, and in that case, I'm not sure if I want to just blank check without sort of pulling the organization back into its roots. That may be the third category that would be worthy of discussion. That would be done on a case-by-case basis. I think we can. I believe that can be worked out while still maintaining true to what the HDFC coalition's goals are intended. Thank you. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Dan. Stacy Lynch.
All righty. So to answer your first question, will you propose legislation? Yes. I have to say this process, has been very subjective. As someone that has worked in government, I have seen firsthand where HDFCs are often charged for water, sewage, etc., and their property is taken away from them and passed over to a nonprofit or a developer. And then I've also witnessed community groups reach out to me and say they need help, and I'll have a conversation with DEP or other agencies to help nonprofits and organizations. And I'm going to be honest, it has been a very subjective process for far too long, right? Because if I make the call and DEP says, okay, we can install a payment plan, no problem, right? We need to be able to do that across the board. And so, yes, I will support a piece of legislation, and actually willing to be a sponsor of that legislation so that we have fair practices. And finally, to answer your second question, no, I would you require HDFCs or require HPD? No, I would not. I would not.
Great. Stacy, thank you so much.
Yep.
Maria Ordonez.
All right, so I would support legislation for a relief package. I think that we need significant relief and forgiveness now throughout this pandemic. We need to make sure that we are not allowing homeownership to go into real estate developers. We need to make sure that homeownership stays with the homeowners. That cycle needs to end. And the city is there to help. We have the ability to do that, and we can do that through a relief package. In terms of the second question, the regulatory agreement with HPD, I'm completely against that. And I think I'm pretty sure I answered the question, so I yield my time.
Great, thank you, Maria. Corey Ortega.
Okay, so yes, with regards to the relief package, hell yes, because we have to represent all of our residents, right? We have to acknowledge their needs and create a tangible solution that could be executed with a majority of council members of 36 or more. I say this because we have cancel rent. We're looking out for small business, but it's our responsibility as a city council member to look out for all our residents, which includes HDFCs, because we know that the pandemic and its economic after effects have disproportionately harmed communities of color, which make up the large portion of this HDFC community in our district. Minority households are more likely to have been harmed by the fallout of the pandemic. We're more likely to earn less than white counterparts to begin with, and are greater at risk of displacement. We compare tax relief for deeply distressed HDFCs with special regulatory agreements in which, in favor of the coalition, in conjunction with the coalition, in which city exercises appropriate oversight and monitoring the HDFC in order to safeguard the city's investment and help provide assistance to prevent the repetition of these problems. Do not confuse this with a regulatory agreement. This is an agreement that is HDFC coalition approved. In terms of requiring HDFC and regulatory agreements, hell no, because we need to help our communities recover from this pandemic, not force distressed sales or force homeowners to choose between autonomy or financial stability. I'll be a loud voice in the state legislative discussions regarding relief packages that maintain ownership and create stability for lower income and middle class homeowners instead of signing away their equity. And again, if the state doesn't accomplish it, I will draft that bill myself along with my other city council candidates and move it forward with a majority of the vote to make sure it gets out of the city council committee and moves to a full floor vote.
Very good. Thank you, Corey. Ray Sanchez Jr.
Thank you. So I would support absolutely a relief package for HDFCs. Absolutely. That's easy. The second half of the question, right? As the current CEO of a New York City funded homeless services provider, again, a 7-year veteran of city government, you have to have controls over the spending of public monies, especially in these spaces of real estate and property management. The reason I ended up being asked to take over the CEO position at Aguila is because of really the corruption and problematic issues in this space, whether it's Victor Rivera, Bronx Parent Housing Network, or some of these other homeless shelter operators and providers, and more important, and just as badly, slumlords, right? So we have to make sure that we use the appropriate controls in place as we disperse these monies to do the improvements that we need to improve in spending that relief package. And there's a huge infrastructure around that, whereas the mayor's office of contracts, whether it's DHS, HRA, there's a huge infrastructure in place to make sure that that relief money is spent without a way that isn't corrupt. And again, there's a lot of room for improvement in this space, whether it's affordable housing, supportive housing, HDFC co-ops. Thank you.
Ray, thank you so much. That takes care of all the 4 questions that we have planned for tonight. We're going to allow you to make a closing statement and then we'll end the evening. I do want to remind everybody that this webinar is being recorded and we are going to post it online on our website. And before I allow you to make your 2-minute statement, I just want to look over to my compatriot here, John and Cheryl, and wanted to know if they wanted to make any closing remarks themselves.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
John?
No, I'm very impressed with all of the candidates, and I thank you for your thoughtful responses. And I wish you all luck. I think we'd be doing in good shape to have any of you. So thank you so much for being and participating in this series. Okay, John.
I'd just like to thank Cheryl and Michael, and of course the candidates. Where would we be without you? This district, I live a little bit outside the district, but this district has historically, the council member for this district has historically worked hard for HDFCs because this district has the most HDFCs compared to any other district throughout the city. So it's crucially important that we get leadership for HDFC co-ops in this district, because that's where standards can be set, laws can be passed. And I just would also like to, again, please remind all our viewers, please go to the HDFC Coalition website, not just to see this video, please, and tell your neighbors that it'll be there, but please donate a little bit if you can. We're all volunteers, we're not getting paid. And we do have expenses. We just bought this Zoom account and things like that. So thank you so much.
John, Cheryl, thank you so much. And on behalf of myself and all the HDFC shareholders, thank you all for participating here tonight. And with that said, you will have 2 minutes to garner the attention and hopefully the vote of the over 4,000 HDFC units in the area, which probably amounts to close to 8,000 voters. So with that said, who wants to go first? I'm gonna leave it to you guys. Raise your hand.
I'll go first.
I'll go. Okay.
There you go, Ray.
Ray, go.
No, ladies first, ladies first.
No. Ray's been punished by the last name. Let Ray go.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I feel like you should go first.
Oh, Ray, come on, Ray.
Yeah, alphabetical order has not been kind to me at all.
Come on, Ray, send us out in style. Come on now.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I appreciate my my fellow candidates. You know, oh, there's a timer. Look, you know, as you know, Corey noted earlier, right? If we don't advocate for HDFCs, we deserve to be fired, right? Because this is a job interview. Experience matters, and whether it's 2011, where we passed a living wage law that literally increased the income of thousands of New Yorkers, that was a bill I'm proud to have passed. Whether it's 2015, where I forced the city to renegotiate the payphone to Wi-Fi kiosk conversion known as Link NYC, so we would do more in Upper Manhattan and the rest of the city outside of Manhattan earlier in the agreement, right? Or whether it was in 2016 when I was on the Governor's Regional Economic Development Council, we won a $10 million award for the downtown revitalization district for the South Bronx, 3rd Avenue hub. And now, you know, a couple years later, I'm the CEO of a nonprofit around the corner from that community, where I was asked to be the CEO to clean up corruption and rebuild the portfolio from the ground up. I've put up wins everywhere I've been, and that's what I'm trying to do for this district, whether it's been in government, whether it's been in academia, whether it's been an adjunct professor, whether it's been a nonprofit. I've put up wins everywhere I've been, and that's what I care about. I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I bleed this city, born and raised in Baruch projects. You know, I'm running because I want to serve, but I've always been of service. And again, now more than ever with the pandemic and trying to figure out life after COVID, right? Quality of life in the city has not been great for a long time. It was built on this premise that we had to go vertical because we couldn't go horizontal. COVID has changed that. You've got city employees who aren't living in the city right now because they're spending the pandemic outside the city. If city workers don't need to be here, then who does? That is the fundamental question facing everyone running for office right now. You need vision, you need experience, you need to know a lot about a lot of different things to lead the city through the next few years. And I hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. And since Stacy was in there with the neck and neck tie for opening last comments, Stacy, why don't you go next?
Absolutely. Thank you again for inviting me tonight, John. I'm going to speak from my heart, John. So I may go over 2 minutes or under. So work with me. Listen, I'm a dedicated and proven leader in government. And what drives me, particularly when it comes to housing, is I know the value of home ownership. You know, my family came from Mattituck, Long Island, literally lived in a 1-room shack, no bedroom, just a kitchen and 1 room. And my father came to New York City to build a life with his beautiful wife, Mary. And we lived in the Lenox Terrace. And after living in the Lenox Terrace, we moved into District 7, where we bought a home. And I will tell you, that has probably changed the trajectory of my life and my brother's life. And so I know the importance of home ownership for everyone on this call today and those who want to be homeowners. And so as your next city councilwoman, I will fight for HDFCs. I will fight for fair policies that support home ownership, particularly when it comes to working and middle class New Yorkers. And I will advocate fearlessly, like I did in the mayor's office, against the mayor himself, okay, on behalf of the coalition and HDFCs across the district and the city. Thank you again for having this wonderful forum. I look forward to working with each and every one of you. 18 seconds, look at that, John.
Well, thank you so much, Stacy. And Maria, why don't you go next?
All right, so it's been a pleasure to be here and talk with all of you and answer your questions. And to everyone who's watching, thank you for staying on and hearing us out. You know, I'm running for city council because it's time that we have change. It's time that we actually fight for our communities and have true representation. I'm an organizer and activist from West Harlem, and that's the experience I want to take to the city council. We need to be of service to our community. And I strongly believe in a model of co-governance. And in the city council, it's really important to me that when we legislate, that when we govern our communities, we're doing it together as a coalition with leaders, with organizers, with activists, with the HDFC coalition of different groups that have been on the ground doing this work for years. So to me, it's important that you know, we're making sure that we're elevating all of our voices, and that's why you know, it's really important that we're also elevating the voices of those that are homeowners. You know, like we're seeing, home ownership can be a racial issue, can be a social justice issue, and making sure that we're providing for those that are the minority, that are homeowners and are looking to get into the middle class and support them is really important. For me, it's really important that we're elevating those voices. As a woman of color from West Harlem, you know, I know a lot of people who are homeowners or people of color, and it's important that they can stay in their home. They're not foreclosed. They don't have to go through TPT, but instead can stay in their home. And we need to fight against real estate. We need to fight against the interests that are in our way that they want to deny homeownership in District 7. And we as District 7 can lead the way. I'm not taking real estate money or corporate money. I'm here for the people, by the people, and I'm here to fight for all of you. And I look forward to having your support. I look forward to, you know, talking with all of you, have a continued conversation. And it's been great. This has been a great forum. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Well, thank you, Maria. Dan the man.
Thank you, Michael, and John, and Cheryl as well for corralling us this evening. Thank you for the HDFC Coalition for your time today. I hope I have made the case that I have the most experience, energy, and ideas among the candidates for City Council District 7 that you are meeting with today, and that I have earned your support. As I mentioned before, I have deep roots in the community, have been born and raised here. I spent much of my adult life trying to make it better. As the Democratic State Committeeman, I have worked in the district to support the candidates and causes that matter to us all. I want to emphasize that I've been involved in the community for decades. I do not believe in the idea of people waiting one's turn, or that one should be rewarded solely on the basis of longevity or some other fictional standard. But I do believe I have demonstrated my core values and have done the hard work in the district long before I contemplated running for office. I have done the toil over decades of forging coalitions on issues and actions that matter. I did this for causes I fundamentally believed in, not because I was running for city council. Next year, virtually the entire city government is changing, and new leadership must hold the police accountable, advocate for structural change to foster racial equity and LGBTQ justice, and protect the most vulnerable among us. With so many new people coming into city government at virtually every level, having some experience and a depth of connections to the people and community organizations in the district will be critically helpful in delivering the services to people who desperately need help, both recovering from the pandemic and the recession, and also the hard work ahead of us in restructuring our city. I would be grateful for the coalition's support. Thank you. I yield the rest of my time.
Great, thank you so much, Dan. And we'll close the evening with Corey's statement. There you go, Corey.
Sorry, had to find the mute button.
No.
So to recap, I have the city council and state legislative experience with over 12 years in city and state and nonprofit, representing the heart of our district to fight for a better HDFC livelihood. I will remove price caps on the resale of HDFC shares. I will also remove regulatory agreements for any financial assistance. I will draft legislation for HDFC relief package. I will replace the dam tax with a New York City HDFC enhanced tax credit that's 150% of the co-op and condo tax abatement. And I say all this because as city council members, we have the authority now to rebalance these inequities. But I want to go a step further and say that I want to do even more. I want to create new city council legislative authorities via the New York City's constitution, the charter. By doing that, by revising the charter, we can have true oversight, real-time oversight, the same as the mayor. When we call an agency, we're not asking, we're not saying, hey, I need a report. Let's talk about these issues, and especially not when it comes during the budget negotiations, because that happens about 2 to 3 months before June. I want to have this authority today, tomorrow. So when I call HPD and I say, hey, you're doing something wrong. Oh no, we'll get back to you, government affairs, interrelations, and get back to you from the mayor's office. No, I want to have that legislative authority. And that's what I want to do as your next council member. I don't want to tell you how much I love you. I want to show you through real action. Thank you so much.
Corey, I would
Corey,
always
thank
get
you
back
so
to
much. I'm
What was
sorry,
that, Stacy?
I would always get back to you, Corey.
Oh no, that wasn't shade. No, I was shade on the man. not
I'm
you.
just
No,
joking with
I
you.
was trying to,
I will
myself
always show
look
you I
good.
love you. I will always show you I love you. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to show you.
I was just trying to puff myself up, Stacey.
I'm always going to show you. I'm not going to just tell you.
Well, very good. It's good that we have this nice kumbaya ending to our
We actually
our
like
forum.
each other. That's
Show-
why.
and show us as part 2 of the event. So Michael, if you want.
Guys, thank you for attending our forum. We appreciate it, and I'm pretty sure that our many shareholders in the district also appreciate it. With that, any parting shots, Cheryl or John?
No, I'm fine. Just thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you. Also, thank you
Oh,
to
Sean.
Hannah, our Spanish interpreter.
Oh, that's right. Thank you, Hannah.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And
Thank you.
again, everyone, please, thank you to the candidates again, and everyone, please go to
Donate for the Zoom.
hdfccoalition.org. Sign up on our mailing list. Please make sure everyone in your HDFC building is signed up on our mailing list. And please, again, donate small, large is okay too. We could use the money. Thank you.
John, are you saying that all the council candidates have pledged to donate tonight? Is that what you said?
I think that's what he
Is that what you
said. I think that's what he said.
Because I'm
That's what you
pledging to
said,
donate.
and
No, that's what John said. That was very clear.
I'm going to throw a number out there. Let's see if everybody
I've
follows
already
my lead.
donated, actually.
I'm gonna-
I don't know where the rest of you are, but I thought,
I'm donating 100
I mean,
tonight.
maybe you all haven't yet.
As
You
I
have
said,
to
this
catch
is-
up in showing
as I
your
said,
love,
this
just
is
as
the
Corey
part
would
2 where
say.
you
but-
show us the love. This is
I'm
Yeah,
donating
show the love.
100 tonight. Is everyone else taking that pledge tonight? It has to post tonight.
Guys,
Okay.
thank
My
you
fingers
so
up, so I
much.
guess that was
Bye.
500.
Thank
Corey.
you. Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
That's about
Alrighty.
1,200 right there in one night.
Bye-bye. Bye,
Okay.
Ray.
Okay, good night.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone. Take care.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.